Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty. Arganissima, New York.
Well, folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel and iHealth Radio. Hurricane H here. New guest, new show, new day, new topic. An interesting topic and dear to my heart for many reasons. I do have family members who have been afflicted with some chronic problems, one being diabetes, and we'll talk about that. And the topic of today really can touch a lot on the diabetes subject because of the content that we're going to share with you guys. And again, I'm trying to be mysterious for a minute, just to get a little bit of juice and get some excitement going here. so bear with me as usual. But so my guest today has a very diversified background, and she's a leader, a founder of a whole concept. And we're going to have her share with us that concept. But before that, of course, we're going to talk about her background and everything. So I have with me today Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo, and she is a nutritional endocrinologist. She has her own institute that deals with this. That's her business, I believe, and she'll tell us more about that. But her story began a long time ago, when she was much younger in terms of education, and experienced her own some medical issues, and it took her just a strength to make a difference, and just basically she made a difference. So doctor, how are you? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel and the radio.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited, and I'm doing fine and well today. Thank you for having me on the show.
Our pleasure, my pleasure. So doctor, first things first, I can never do justice to people. And so therefore, the best person to give me the right introduction would be you, about yourself and your background. So share with us a little bit about your history and where it all started and what drove you to where you are today and into this particular world.
Absolutely. So it all started when my health fell apart when I was in my mid-20s, and I had been, living the good life up till then, the standard American diet. And then I graduated college, and I started a job where I got to take customers out to lunch and eat foods at restaurants on the company. And I exploited that, so to speak, just because it was fun, right? And I found my health falling apart. I found myself with brain fog. Nobody talked about brain fog back in the 1980s, but it was like, I'd be talking to people and I'd be like trying to focus on what they were saying and not being able to. And I thought I wasn't tired because I always had lots of energy, but I was on caffeine and sugar all day long to keep me going. Otherwise I would fall asleep on the way home from work. And I found myself with stomach problems and sinus problems and a whole host of things. And I went to all the different specialists to try to get help. And I found myself with this big pile of medications, right? Steroids for the sinuses and Valium for my headaches, and what else? Ulcer medications for my stomach. And then they started doing procedures where they froze out the membranes, the turbinates in my nose, thinking that was going to help my sinuses. And it all just kept piling up and nothing getting better. And finally, when I woke up, when my doctor, the gastroenterologist I had visited because of the stomach pain, he said, "Hey, the good news is the scopes came back. Everything's fine. You don't have an ulcer." I'm like, great. Now that's really good news, but why do I double over in pain every time I eat a meal? Because as well, we don't know. I said, so what do I do about it? He goes, well, just take ulcer medication, keep taking the ulcer, because he'd already prescribed ulcer medication. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, I'm 25, right? I'm on all these medications. 25-year-olds shouldn't be on all these medications. What is it going to be like when I'm 50 or 60 or 70? I'm going to be completely fallen apart. So I asked him a question that just popped in my head. Could it be my diet? Because I knew I had a pretty bad diet. And he was like,
Mm.
No, diet has nothing to do with it. And at that point, I said, well, diet may not have anything to do with my headaches or my sinuses or my brain fog, but I bet it has something to do with my stomach, because doesn't the food have to go through there? And he just said, oh, no, it doesn't have to. Just drink lots of milk and eat lots of dairy products to coat your stomach and take the ulcer medication. So that point, I was like, something's wrong with this picture. Something's wrong with this system. And I started looking for alternatives. And it was before the internet, before shows like this, and before podcasts. And I had to go to the library and, just start digging out books. And okay. And I finally, learned some things and changed my diet and changed my lifestyle. And I got better. I discovered fasting and cleansing and liver food. And I was like, wow, why is it so hard? And I had a background in computers, so I'm a problem solver. I'm figure it out. I'm like, okay, this has to be easier than what I went through to try to figure this out for me. So I quit my job and went back to school. And I got my degrees in chiropractic, acupuncture, herbal medicine, a system called HeartMath for the mind body, and whatever else I could get my hands on, I was learning, right? And so that was 30 some years ago. And now I'm online, and I'm helping tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people take charge of their own health, right? And empowering them through knowing how to take care of their health so that they either don't get those kinds of problems, or they learn how to reverse those problems.
Wow. that's a very, very abbreviated,
very abbreviated
history in a very concise way. So, but it's a lot of stuff. I mean, well, first of all, I want to say this, and I am always impressed that I've heard similar stories where people get stuck and they can't figure out a solution. And the best way they do, and the main thing that they do that makes a difference, is they go and do the research. And not only to do the research, you took it the other step. I mean, you went back to school to learn more and be an expert in the matter. And I think that is just, tremendous, because sometimes you went to various doctors, different medicines, different treatments, different, diagnosis, prognosis, all this, but you were not satisfied, and you did not get the results you wanted. And you, to your point, you said it, 25. I mean, if this is today, how is it going to be in the future? And yeah, I mean, if you were on medication for all these years, I mean, they do have side effects, and no offense to medications. I mean, we want them, they're good, they help, but if it's continuous, there's always some it gives you one thing, it may take something else, right? There's always that. So it's a risk, but you looked at it from a different angle. And even when you asked the question to the gastro doctor, and you asked about, is it food? And I guess at the time the understanding was it's not. That's the other thing. I mean, time has, we had a real evolution in the medicine and nutrition and all these holistic and different, forms of healing. I think, 30, 40 years ago, I mean, even 20 years ago, the medicine is different from today. And the concepts are different. I'm discovering concepts, throughout the shows, almost on a regular basis now that I wasn't even familiar with, or at least I wasn't exposed to, right? We all know modern medicine, Western medicine, and we know a little bit about Eastern medicine and, ancient medicine, holistic stuff, but we don't know the details about it. And you took it to the next level. And it's funny, you made the analogy, well, not the analogy, the reality that you went to the libraries, and maybe people listening to the shows like, what is a library?
What is a library?
It's funny, but that's where we were, going to get books and get, resources. I mean, obviously before Google, before all the search engines, we didn't have that,
Right.
and, but it was, you pick up a book and you read the book and you got to do your research. And I mean, obviously there are still libraries here. That's just a joke, being we live in the modern age of technology and the internet. But again, the world right now is accessible to all knowledge and information. And even to your point, you mentioned podcasts and shows and programs. Now this is bringing it to the people in their home while they're driving, whatever. You can listen to podcasts anywhere right now. Watch them online, YouTube, and all these platforms. So, but you took that, and then you also specialize in the types of services of medicinal services such as chiropractic, acupuncture. These are holistic, type of approaches, more of the traditional, type of treatments or forms of treatment, and then you added the nutrition piece to it, right? In the beginning of the show, I mentioned, about endocrinology, and we laughed, you and I, earlier about that word because it's a little bit of a trickier word.
Tongue tie.
I think I did okay.
Did well.
Thank you. But we talked about that. But then you took that concept and you really took the nutritional piece into it. Then
Yes.
you founded your own institute to talk about this, and you just said yourself that you help hundreds of thousands of people on a regular basis to find their balance. You even treated things, use different concepts such as you said it, like fasting. Today we hear about intermittent fasting, and there's a whole a wave of fasting, diets and forms that is available to people, and a lot of people are following these things.
Yeah.
So before we get into the nutritional and the diet piece of it, if you don't mind, doctor, if you want to just share with us a little bit about the concept of the endocrine, health, which is basically, what I kind of referred to earlier. I just mentioned diabetes as one because that comes from the same concept. If you want to just give us a little bit of an expenditure on that, in terms of like the different types of problems that can happen from this particular concept, and the glands and all the stuff that's impacted.
Yeah. So here's the thing: nutritional endocrinology. Endocrinology is the study of hormones. And when people think about hormones, unfortunately, they go right to the bedroom and they say, oh, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. They say hot flashes and mood swings and PMS and, erectile dysfunction. Those are all endocrinology kinds of things. And that's what people think about. But, there's hormones that control everything in the body. Endocrine system is actually the master controller. There's hormones that control all of the things I just mentioned, the reproductive function, the sex drive, but there's also all the hormones that control your metabolic rate. There's the hormones that control the uptake of glucose from the cells into the cells so that they can make energy. And that's where we're talking diabetes earlier. Mm-hmm. There's the hormones that control your stress response, your fear response from the adrenal glands, cortisol, adrenaline. There's other hormones that control the digestion. And there's actually, I know about 28 different hormones that control digestion. And people don't think about the digestive tract as an endocrine system. And it is. It has more hormones than almost anything else. There's hormones that control cardiac function, that control kidney function, that control immune system function, that control the brain and the immune system, and on and on and on, right? So there's hormones that control all of it. And really what hormones are, these little messengers that gets secreted from one place and have a more wide-reaching effect. They travel through the bloodstream, they find their way to a target, and then they have an effect, whether it's, make the metabolism faster, make the metabolism slower, secrete some hormones or secrete some things that are going to help protect us, make the heart race faster so you can run away from a tiger, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what the endocrine system is. So endocrinology is the study of hormones, and nutritional endocrinology is how do you use nutrition to affect the hormones, to balance the hormones, and to make those hormones work right. When I say nutrition, I use that word a little loosely because I think about nutrition as everything that we put in and on the body. Now, what does that mean? Well, yeah, obviously food and nutrients, that's nutrition, herbs and things like that. But what else is part of nutritional endocrinology is the other things. What do we put in here? What are we listening to that's creating fear? What are we putting in our heart? How are we feeling, about things? Are we meditating? Are we having a positive outlook? Are we moving the body? All of those things affect the endocrine system either positively or negatively. And when you mentioned earlier fasting, for years, I didn't tell anybody that I did fasting to get myself better. I didn't tell anybody because people thought that meant you were anorexic, right? So the few people that I did tell, they were accusing me of being anorexic and saying I needed some help. And that wasn't the case. So when we look at fasting now, it's like everybody, fasting, like it's something new. I've been doing it for 35 years. People have been doing it for eons, right? As a spiritual ritual, as a healing ritual. So it's now okay. It's socially acceptable to talk about fasting, whether you mean long-term fasting, intermittent fasting, or just some people, it's just fasting between dinner and breakfast. right? Because a lot of people don't, quite frankly. So all of those things affect your hormones in positive or negative ways. And that's what I work with people and teach health practitioners how to work with this stuff and make a real big difference.
Wow. Well, first of all, that's a lot of it, a lot to digest, talking about digestive system here. It's a lot to digest. And you just, for me personally, I mean, that's an eye opener because I too, I was limited to what some of the endocrinologists, problems would be, in terms of maybe limited to diabetes, to thyroid, things like that. But then think about it, maybe some brain function, like to your point, like the basics, like the estrogens and, all the usual stuff, but
Right.
not really to the level that you described it, just the digestive system itself. I wouldn't have thought about that. Well, you discovered that, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that more now because you had that problem, and certainly your formulas and all the stuff may have helped you, get over all those the treatment that you had for your stomach and the ulcers and all these things. But really, like, I don't know, probably people will be like, I didn't know. That's a aha moment for me because I didn't hear this before. Again, we don't know all the stuff about how the body functions unless we're a biologist, right? Or maybe in a medicine.
Even then we don't, because there's new stuff. Leptin is a hormone that was just discovered in the 1990s. That's not that long ago, right? And leptin is an appetite control hormone produced by, guess what? Not a gland, by fat cells, right? And then its sister, brother, whoever you want to call it, ghrelin, is produced by the stomach, and it controls they balance each other. So all of those things, and they were just recently discovered. What are we going to discover next decade?
I'm so glad to have these shows because there's not even a dull moment in those shows. I've always learned things since at the beginning of the programs, and I continue every day learning new things, and I love it. I mean, there's never too late to learn things, and there's always new things to learn, and that's
Absolutely.
amazing. So you briefly mentioned about like the diabetes, the hormones, and then the metabolism, like the thyroid, right? Hyper, all these things, which is a very, I think, more common. These two are like more common than maybe other types of disorders or chronic diseases. Because I think a lot of people, I mean, my family, my wife has actually thyroid, problems. And my mom, like I mentioned earlier, she's diabetic. And I know a lot of people that have to save and they have to take medication for these things to regulate. And again, there's other types of situations. And I had a few shows about psychiatry, and we've talked about the cortisols and the other things that potentially can be just as serious, and important at the same time. So it's just amazing. So your concept, so you went and you started this whole program, and is there an actual step-by-step guide to the program? Is it something that someone can become a member of? How does your program work? How do you help people today through the Institute?
Yeah. So the Institute is where I teach health practitioners. And yes, we have a system that we take people through, the Nutritional Endocrinology method. And it's a way to look at people and understand what's going on and then hierarchically fix things, right? So for example, if someone comes in and says, hey, I'm having hot flashes, can you help me? The typical approach is let's test your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Let's see what's out of balance and then give you hormones, whether it's conventional medicine or whether it's bioidentical hormones through somebody that's more natural. And what happens there is they're not asking the most important question in the universe. Do you want to know what the most important question in the universe is?
I don't.
You don't? Why? Why?
Because I never asked, I guess.
Because that's the question. That is the most important question that you can ask. Why? Why is this happening? Why are your hot flashes out of balance? Your conventional medical approach would be to say, because you're 50 years old. And that's what happens at 50 years old. You go through menopause, you have all these symptoms, and we just need to give you some hormones or some medications or some anti-anxieties or whatever to help you get better. But they don't ask, why are your hormones out of balance from a different perspective? Because yes, at menopause, estrogens go down, the ovaries shut down, we can't make babies anymore. But that doesn't mean we have to shut down our lives and become miserable. The normal menopause, if you were to look at cultures that are not like so sophisticated and westernized as ours and have so much opportunity for toxicity and processed food and all this, they don't have a word for menopause as being a medical condition. Menopause means your menstruation ceases. It's not a disease condition. But here in the Western world, we look at menopause as a condition, a pathological condition. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. When I tell people that I never had a single hot flash, that I didn't have anxiety when menopause started, that I didn't have sleepless nights, that the sheets didn't get wet and sweaty, they're like, huh? Isn't that normal? But no, it's not. It's abnormal. It's normal for somebody who's out of balance. So why do you have menopausal symptoms? Yeah, we all go through the menopause. Some people later than others. I have friends who are close to 60 and they haven't gone through menopause yet, right? I was around 50. That's more like the average. But we all go through it. But how we go through it makes a difference, and how well nourished we are and how our stress levels are, the environment and toxicity, all of that stuff plays in. So when I see somebody who has hot flashes, I'm asking why. I'm not satisfied with because you're 50. Like, what underlying things? And what I find is that there's a pyramid of body function that supports the next level and the next level. And at the base of that pyramid are two different things. Both of them we touched on: digestion and blood sugar. And if you don't have balanced digestion and blood sugar, your thyroid can't get balanced, your adrenals can't get balanced, your sex hormones can't get balanced, your kidneys can't get balanced, because you have to have proper nutrient absorption and assimilation, and you have to have proper energy metabolism in order for everything to work. So when I ask, why you're having hot flashes, I'm asking questions. So, well, right below that would be, well, do they have a thyroid problem? Do they have an adrenal problem? Do they have a blood sugar imbalance? Do they have a digestive problem? And we work on underlying symptoms. Yes, as an herbalist, I can say, try these herbs or that herbs or these nutrients, but those are Band-Aids, right? Those are similar to just giving a medication for the symptoms. We want to go deeper. And what I find is when we go deeper and we balance the body and get rid of the toxicities and get the digestion working and get the blood sugar balanced, everything else starts to get into balance.
Well, I mean, you're making it sound very easy, but it's not. I don't think it's as easy as it sounds. But it could be. It should be, if people take the necessary steps. And you said it. I mean, the why takes us to the root cause, and then that, ultimately now you know how to treat it from the source, not, to your point, just, to cosmetically just camouflage it and cover it.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
just like putting, you said the Band-Aid, just like putting Tylenol and stopping a little bit of migraine, but it's not telling you where the problem is. It's just kind of telling your brain, hey, there's nothing going on, but it's still going on. So,
Right.
So you mentioned these concepts. And so I usually kind of say these three words, or like I use END, which basically exercise, nutrition, and detoxification. Those three concepts. So my question to you in that is that we talk nutrition. You talk even like if you put some acupuncture, chiropractic, all that stuff. How does it all apply together if you were to put it in perspective?
Okay. So here I have this concept. I call it the freedom pillars. And you mentioned some of them. I call it the freedom pillars because I think it's at the base of all of us being healthy. And freedom, because if it's body freedom, means you're not encumbered by, I can't go out and hike because my hip hurts, and I can't do this because I have a headache, or I can't do that because I'm tired. Then when you get these pillars in balance, and the organs and the glands just naturally get imbalanced. So the freedom pillars are fun, restful sleep, environment, exercise, diet, outlook, and mindfulness. That spells freedom. And when you can balance those concepts, when you can get good sleep and you can get your stress under control and you have some kind of mindfulness practice and you eat well for you, not just the general humans should eat this diet or that. There's no such thing. It's like what's right for you. When you get those things in balance, everything starts to change. And I see this all the time in my clients. So you asked, do I have a system, a process? Yeah, this is what the process is, to take people through balancing each of those, and then looking at the digestion and the blood sugar, and looking at, well, the diet plays a big part in that. The exercise plays a big part in that. So when we get those things balanced, there might be a little extra tweaks we have to do to get some of those other symptoms that people present with working. But if you don't get those balanced, you just kind of keep hitting your head against the wall.
Well, balance is everything, right?
Exactly.
And you know, it's amazing that your process. I mean, I love actually the acronym, the freedom thing. I mean, you're really taking people to their freedom, and that's awesome, right? You know, and freedom. The best thing we can have is when you have, you know, body, mind, soul, everything is in a good, you know, balance and really in the right place. And I mean, the topic is so exciting. We can talk about different angles here. I mean, we can branch out in almost every direction here. And in your expertise, I mean, obviously you were the first one that started this, even for yourself. I mean, you certainly benefited yourself, and you used some of those practices to share also with others. So going back to your personal experience, you used the general medicine with the meds and everything, but then you discovered all these new ways of treating your own, you know, chronic problems, and you were able to remove them. So I'm assuming you've applied all these concepts, and you know, and you've been the standing sample and example for everybody to see. Like, I did this. I've been through this. It's not just like, you know, some theory. It's a practical, you know, and I'm the living, breathing person in front of you that did this. And that's actually a real testimony, because sometimes we have doubts and there's skeptics. And today we hear a lot of different things, right? There's so many ways of diets and nutritional formats and so on. But frankly, all these things lead to the same thing. I mean, I think everybody's trying to get to that same point of freedom, the same kind of health, to the same, you know, outcome where we can live healthier, happier, and longer. And, you know, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's the other thing. We all live a certain time of, you know, life. I mean, life ends eventually, but the way you go through it and how long you can be in a viable, you know, and really alive mode and just kick it and happy and stuff, that's the difference. Because some people tend to keep that for a longer term. Some people tend to have early on issues and problems, and therefore their life becomes more difficult as they age. And that's actually really what it is. And you mentioned something earlier about menopause, for example, as an example. That's for the ladies more specifically, but even for the guys, there's similarities.
There's similarities, yeah.
Exactly. There's similarities where, you know, and the body's changed also, and your testosterone is not the same, and levels are not the same, and now you have differences in how you behave in whole life. Your reaction, your metabolism, you know, changes. You know, like a younger, you know, guy, like, you know, when I was 20 is different when I am today. Big difference, right? Today, you know, my metabolism is not burning as fast as it did before. And it's just, you know it, you feel it. But the nutrition part, you know, the activities, the way you apply things, the way you live makes a big difference. And so your choices, I think, in terms of lifestyle, and that includes healthy eating, your practices, and all these things. Learning about new concepts. You talked about fasting. Fasting is awesome. I fast. I mean, I had the privilege of doing fasting since I was a kid because of religious beliefs.
Got it.
But certainly I've also learned, you know, the concept of fasting, not just because of that. I've seen the results of it, and it works. Because I'm used to doing 14, 15, up to 17 hours in one day, especially when we do the fasting, right? And in that time frame, you're literally in 1 month, you know, for us is 1 month's worth of fasting. You know, for just to clarify, not 30 days nonstop. We do eat, right? But during the time frame.
But you do these intermittent fasts for a whole month. Yeah.
Well, it's the religious aspect of
the religious, right?
Yeah, it's Ramadan, and so we do from sunrise to sunset. But during that time, in the summer months, I mean, you're talking about 18 hours and more. I personally do almost 24 hours because I eat once. And so I eat once, and then, you know, throughout the day, there's no water, and you still do your activities. So your body really kicks in. But then what I notice is that your liver function, everything gets much better because it has enough time to detox and just kind of shred everything that is not good for you. And you cannot, and you're picky at food then. You just cannot eat junk because you only eat the right stuff. You just want the best nutrients to have to keep you for the day. So you're not really like, you know, on a typical day, I can snack, you know, a donut here. I'm just don't quote quote me. I'm doing this every day, but we all kind of crave things, right? You see something, you just kind of like, okay, I crave this. And a sugar rush, you get that, feeling like I want to have a sweet tooth. Let me have some chocolate, whatever. Sometimes we do that. Now, I don't eat a lot of junk food or like, I guess processed food. And I try to do meals home, and then, that's gonna, but we all do eat outside, for example, right? And those are some things that everybody does. I mean, we live in a culture that is a consumer culture. We go out and we love to enjoy, a nice meal, whatever. But you said it earlier, when you were still in your early on in the career and you were going to those dinners and lunches, it was on the company and stuff, and you had fun. I've been through that road. Trust me, I know exactly what
Yeah.
It's fun because, these dinners come in and you can choose and eat all you want and all this stuff. But you're right. Eventually it takes a toll on the body.
Takes a toll. And I was lucky that it took a toll so young, I feel, because I could have continued that for a few more decades and then ended up with much more serious issues. And quite frankly, I don't do that anymore because it's not worth it, right? I love how I feel now and it ain't worth it. So I've given that kind of thing up, because I've seen that when I did that, and when I did it and then I went away from it and did it again, I didn't like how I felt. So I haven't even gone down that path. But it's very, very, I think it's really helpful when you can make those choices younger than older. But I've still seen people start to make changes in their 70s and just completely improve their health.
Well, it's never too late. That's one.
No,
right?
it's never too late.
Now is the time, right? You begin whenever you're able to and when you can.
Right.
Some people, for example, may not see this until they get a problem. Something goes wrong. And now they realize, oops, what's up?
Right.
This is not right. And now they go to doctors, and to your point, the same experience goes. I mean, we love our doctors, but when you have medicines and tests and this and that, and you have to keep going back and forth, it doesn't help, and eventually you realize there's got to be some more. And you know what? I've had so many guests from different walks of life and experiences, but they all had one common element, which is they all made that change.
Yeah.
They took the stands. They made the change in their life and a commitment, and they moved from to a holistic or a more natural approach, and their life has flourished since that moment. But again, I think that one of the key messages here that it's never too late.
That's totally right.
The body is resilient enough and can make a difference if you treat it right. And if you turn things, I mean, best example, people smoke, for example, or what they used to smoke. As soon as you stop smoking, your body starts shifting back and get better and better and better. So it takes a little time. So depending on how long you smoked, whatever. But same thing, alcohol, all these things, even bad nutrition, right? We eat junk and sugar and stuff. I had one of the shows the other day, I mentioned something about myself. There was 1 year in my life where I just didn't care and started just eating food, and I was just lazy, and I was just like Coach Potato, sitting there and just watching TV and just snacking. I gained so much weight. My knees were hurting. I had ulcers. It was just getting bad. 1 year. That's all it took.
Right. So it doesn't take long at all.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. It was bad. I mean, it's funny because you can gain so much weight in very little time, and it's very difficult to lose that weight. It takes a long time to do, and not just losing it. I mean, it's exercise. It's really knowing the diets, knowing what to do. You have to be like really controlling your cravings and stuff. I even tried hypnosis to help, and it did. So there were so many ways people can do things to change, but you have to commit to the change, and you have to also seek the resources such as yours. Now I know your system and the institute is for the actual providers or the medical folks, but you also service people, customers in general.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about that experience, about just the common folks who actually want to seek that advice and make the leap, make the change, and really become better health-wise and feeling well and just really leading a nice lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because the process I take people through, the first thing is I have them identify their big why. I don't know if you've watched Simon Sinek, his TED Talk, very famous TED Talk, but getting in touch with their big why, because when you're making changes, like I just want to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos, right? At this point, and knowing like, why not? So if your big why is that your fingers are all crumpled up and you can't play the piano anymore, and you want to be able to play the piano, or you have no energy to play with the grandkids when they come over, or you used to play tennis and you loved it and you want to do that again, or you want to go hiking with your partner and you don't have the energy right now, whatever your big why is for getting your health back. And we have to keep tuning back into that. When those Cheetos are sitting there staring you in the face, or the chocolate cake, you're thinking, what do I want most? And there's an expression that one of my clients said to me, and I quote it all the time, is don't exchange what you want most for what you want in the moment. And in the moment, that chocolate cake is going to look way better than the salad. But in the long run, that salad's going to take you down the path, because that chocolate cake is going to create an addictive tendency to just want more chocolate and more whatever. And it's not going to get you to where you want to go. So I start people with getting in touch with their why, their big why, and where they want to go. And then we look at their pillars. We look at what are they doing? One of the first things I give people to do is have some fun every day. Because so many people, their only fun is sitting on the couch watching TV and eating the junk food because they've had this long, hard day. When you build in fun, it's one of the pillars. And most people have left that behind. And they go, wow. And I did this experiment when we had a group, and spent a month on other things, but the real thing was you have to have do something fun every day and post it to the Facebook group. And we had people showing scarves they were knitting and paintings they were making. One lady got Lego sets and was building Legos, and, the change in their attitude, the change in their health, their change in their commitment to healthy habits, the healthy eating habits, et cetera, was so much enhanced by just incorporating something fun every day. So that's something we start with, and getting a good night's sleep is super important. And so many people just like drive, and they're getting 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night, and you can't have a healthy body that way. So we work on those basics, and we work on the diet. We work on drinking water. How do you drink your plenty of water every day? And all that stuff, that makes a huge difference. And it starts with little habits, and every single choice you make matters. So keeping that in mind. Someone asked me on a podcast I was on last week, and they said, basically, where do you start? I'm like, okay, let's start small. Incorporate something green in every meal, whether it's some celery, some lettuce, some broccoli, some kale sauteed with onions and garlic, whatever it is, but incorporate something green every meal, and then start to expand on that. And then it starts to crowd out the other food and provide the balance in those B vitamins and the balance in all the other minerals that make you feel like you don't want the junk anymore.
Well, doctor, I mean, you've touched on quite a few other items here. I mean, again, eating healthy is one thing, but living the lifestyle, also the healthier lifestyle. Sleeping, for example, you mentioned, that's a big deal. And I think, unfortunately, we all caught up with life, and life happens, as I say, and but we don't know how to balance it. And I'm talking about quality of life, work versus personal life, work versus taking your own time off and things like that. I listen, I'm guilty too. I mean, there was a time in my career path, I was like, looking up to the top and wanting to get to my next level. And so you do a lot of, and again, the good news is you're a younger age, you have the energy and stamina to do that. And so you get, little sleep, and you work 7 days a week, and you don't take time off and stuff. But that's not, I came to, to the conclusion that is not the right way to do it. So I eventually learned to balance life, and, to know when I can drop my phone, not pick it up, know when I have to go on vacation, there is no work, know when I have to finish work and tomorrow is another day, stuff like that. But I see people that cannot control themselves. And there's other things that contribute to the same thing. Some now even bad habits. I mean, we're talking about technology earlier. Now with cell phones and tablets and, social media, some people can stay, up in front of that screen all night long. They can't even stop. I've had this discussion about my kids, for example. I mean, that's the new generation. And if we don't control them sometimes, they can spend the whole night playing. And, so everything is disastrous. So their eating habits are bad, and everything is really going wrong. So these are all real factors that apply, to each and every one. And I think there's not enough discussion. And, the more we hear about it, the more we share this message, I think it will help more people out there. And so that's just, for example, the sleep. But you said, like, even nutrition, one little step, you said, one change, and all it takes, you can build anything you want with small little pieces, right? Like a puzzle starts with one piece, and then you can have a whole piece of art, right? Anything, a painting is just with a stroke, and next thing you have a nice little, Van Gogh going, right? So it could be a lot of things, but that first start is the start is always hard. The journey begins with one step, right? You start the step, you make it work. So there's also, you said about fun and activities and having a positive attitude. Surround sometimes, and this is more like in the mental state, but sometimes we surround ourselves with negativity and get really caught up in all that junk stuff, and then that affects us, and then like the mood is down, and now we start eating just because we're not happy, and then it's just a bad deal. So all these are concepts, that add up.
Yeah, they do. And that's the O, that surrounding yourself by negative people, the outlook. Do you have a positive outlook or a negative outlook? And if you're surrounding yourself by negative people, or you're listening to the news all the time, you're going to get like, and your outlook becomes of negativity and fear. And that's not conducive to health.
It's not. Well, it's funny you said news. No news is good news, right? I know it means different things depending on how you look at it. But,
I like that though. No news is good news.
It's a twist to it. I mean, listen to news is depressing, right? I mean, it's always like somebody, like one time asked me a question, like, what's going on? It was like, it's just another day. People are, sick. People are killing each other. There's
but
trouble.
People are loving each other too, and we're not reporting that on the TV, right? And it's not balanced. There's babies being born. There's people loving on each other. There's people getting married. That doesn't make the front page news. It's the shootings and the fear-based things that make the news. And so if we just stop and think that's a blip, a little bit of what's really going on, and let's celebrate and live in gratitude.
Doctor, it's funny, but you know how they say, right? If it bleeds, it leads, right? That's the motto, right? But you know what? I can give you, I do this myself. I stopped watching the news. I don't watch the news. I really don't. I actually, when I'm finished with my day, work and do my stuff, I just relax, maybe put a nice little fun movie or whatever, just to relax my mind, just get I like space movies. So it takes me like to a whole, this sci-fi stuff. It just take me out of stuff. I also like driving, for example. I can literally just drive for an hour just to relax, and that's it.
Wow.
So think it gives me relax and just comfy and just zone out, right? Listen to music. But everybody has there's so many ways we can help each other and help ourselves, in terms of the next step. And also, like, you have the outlook, right? The positive mindset. Think of the stuff. To your point, we choose to see bad. We don't choose to see good. There's a lot of good around us. And that's the other thing. So that's just the big picture. But now going just to the topic of nutrition, there's the other element of nutrition, right? So there's good stuff and bad stuff, even in the healthy stuff, right? I mean, like there's the question, like, well, what kind of food should I get? Is it the stuff that's sold in the marketplace? Or is it, I have to go to a farm? Do I have to grow my own stuff? I mean, is it organic? Is not organic? So we have those things. So in your opinion, and I know those are semantics, and some people can say, well, do I really want to do this right? I have to do it all this extreme, or are there ways to kind of ease yourself into it? And yes, maybe there is a spectrum that you can, utilize in there. So what is your recommendation when it comes to that?
There is a spectrum. And we a lot of times what gets us into trouble from a health perspective is that need to be perfect. So it's that all or nothing. So I have to do the best. If not, I'm just going to keep doing my Cheetos. Right. But what can we do to replace those Cheetos? Right. What kind of things? There's good, better, best. And this is something one of my favorite students she says, I just talk to my clients about good, better, best. Here's what you're doing now. Let's just go to good. And when you get good handle, let's go to better, and then we can go to best. You don't have to go right there. And maybe you never make it to best, but at least you're making improvements. So when we look at things, there's certain things I think everybody needs to avoid, right? The processed, sugary, hydrogenated oils and the chemicals and preservatives, we have found their neurotoxins they're affecting, right? But there's food. There's a real food, right? Real food doesn't have ingredients. It is an ingredient. So therefore, what do you have? Like, oh, these are things that I can make my meal out of, and they come from the ground, they come from trees, they're single ingredients, right? They're not packaged with, what does that say? If you can't pronounce it, don't put it in your body. Like, really, unless you really are just, English is your second language and you can't pronounce much of anything. If you can't pronounce cantaloupe, you can still eat it. Okay. But you know what I mean? But there's so many things in there that, like, what is this? I don't have this in my kitchen as an ingredient. Typically, if you're reading something that has ingredients, you want those ingredients to be something that you would probably find in your cupboard or in your refrigerator if you were making it from scratch. Because yeah, we're busy. We don't always make things from scratch. But real food, getting rid of the processed stuff, the stuff you can't pronounce, the stuff with preservatives. Can you do organic? You can't do everything organic. It just is impossible to find, and you'd be limited to a lot less variety. And the budget, so you have to go with your budget, and you can choose to get as much organic as you can, but start with getting the processed garbage out. The sugar, which is contributing to diabetes, to heart disease, to cancer, to liver problems, to gut microbiome problems, all that stuff. So we need to get those things out. And then looking at, I like to look for each person, what's the ideal for them? Some people have to avoid certain things because their body just doesn't digest it well. Okay, so we avoid those certain things, but you start with making those small changes, and those small changes turn to big changes. And I use Cheetos because one of my clients said to me years ago, after working with us for like 6 months, completely getting her health back and losing 60 pounds, feeling amazing, she said, "You ruined Cheetos for me." And I'm like, "Excuse me, what do you mean?" She goes, "I always knew they were bad for me. But I'd go with my friends and we'd be sitting there and we'd munch on the Cheetos." And she said, "When you started explaining to me the ingredients and what those ingredients were doing to my body," she said, "I just couldn't even deal with it anymore. It was an easy no."
It's amazing you're talking about this. There's an acronym that I've used before. Well, it's common to use. It's called CRAP, as it sounds bad,
Yes.
but it's caffeinated, products and refined sugars and additives and processed food, right? Which is basically all the bad stuff for your health, or preservative rather. So these are all the things that you cannot possibly have in your body. But you're right. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that's out there today, it's really just not as clean and as simple in its content.
Right.
I mean, to your point, the ingredients can be something you cannot pronounce, and I'm talking about it sounds more like a chemical than actually food.
Right.
And some of them are chemicals, especially with some
Propylene
of the
glycol in your food. I mean, come on, that's antifreeze.
well, yeah, exactly. So there's some of that, and I don't want to go into. We'll ruin people's appetite today, but certainly, there's more. I mean, it's funny. Today, I was, I went to one of the local supermarkets, and I was looking at this. So there's this Chick-fil-A, right? So they're all over the place now, and so now they have this sauce that they sell. So I just grabbed the thing to read the back. I looked at that thing. It was like a whole bunch of stuff in there. And the first one that hit my eyes was like corn syrup. I'm like, okay. So ketchup, all these things. Yeah, they're delicious. It's part of culture. But when you look at them, it's salts, sodium and sugars. I personally cut off sugar a long time ago. I don't use sugar at all. I mean, there's no such thing as sugar in my diet. I mean, I do take sweets every now and then, but for me, honey is my sugar, right? So I use honey, for example. Coffee, people drink coffee with, milk and sugar. I drink it just like, straight up, and obviously with moderation. Tea, whatever. So no more sodas, for example. That's gone. I mean, about 10 years ago, I had a kidney stone, and that was not fun. So I'm like, okay, this is wake up call. You got to change your lifestyle, and it's funny on the show, I tell things about myself, because people sometimes like, what do you know? I've been there too. So I have, some, personal experiences that I know they're not fun, and I would not want them to be experienced by anybody else. Yeah. So doctor, just one more item so the system is obviously sweet. What is the time frame that someone would go through from beginning to the end? I mean, obviously it varies, right? Everybody
varies a lot.
Yeah, not the same for everyone. So what that looks like.
I mean, I've seen people who are really dedicated get major changes, like reversing diabetes in 2 to 3 weeks, literally. literally. This was a 78-year-old woman that had the, like, I think the fastest, like she went from her blood sugars being 160 to 200 down to, 90 to 100 within 2 weeks. Okay.
Wow.
This can happen quickly. It depends on how dedicated you are, right? I've seen people drop off, 20 pounds in a month and get their energy back. And I've seen people reverse thyroid disease. One lady was, she was on thyroid medication for like 50 years, told she had Hashimoto's, autoimmune thyroiditis. She went in and did some work to balance her blood sugars. And not only did she get her blood sugars under control and went from pre-diabetic to normal to ideal, but she reversed her Hashimoto's and hasn't been on medication in like 11 years since she did that. She's in her 70s now. So, I've seen it happen really quickly. And then I've seen people who are, they're based on some of their genetic factors, based on some of their, their habits, right? And the difficulty with changing their habits take longer. So it could take a year or two. It depends on where you're starting from and where you're going through and how dedicated. For me, from going from all of those problems to when I decided I was going to fast, and I learned about fasting, and then I was going to change my diet after the fast, it was like 2 months. And I was completely changed. Haven't been on any medication since. The only time I ever took any kind of medication in 30 years was about 6 years ago when I broke my arm and it displaced. And they had to do surgery to put it back on.
Mhm.
And I did a local anesthetic, and I took 2 ibuprofens after that. That was it, right? That's my only medication in 35 years, and having been on all of that medication. And I feel wonderful all the time. I don't do caffeine. I don't do sugar. I do real food. And I'm exercising, lifting weights, right? And that's my life in my 60s. So had I looked back when I was in my 20s going, how's it going to be when I'm in my 50s? Oh, I'll be running marathons and triathlons. And how's it going to be in my 60s? Oh, I started a whole institute and a new business. And what's it going to be like in my 70s? I don't know. I'm thinking about pole dancing. Who knows?
I love it. That's good. That's great. Well, it's funny you said that, but I have, like I mentioned earlier, that I do work with the senior markets, and I have been into senior parties, and I've actually, we've sponsored a lot of events over the years with seniors, and I've seen some real healthy, active, in shape seniors that looked much, much younger than their age, and they were vibrant, they were energetic. I mean, they looked better than people in the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah.
And so it's all about, again, how it's like how you treat your body, right? If you do it right and you work with it, and it's really it's what you put in, right? If you put bad stuff, you're gonna get bad outcome. You put good stuff, you get good outcome, right? And I've seen it. So there is no such thing as age as a limitation. We make the limitations, I think, based on the choices we make.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the problem. And sometimes we are just in denial because we don't think long term. And I think the other part is the perception that health is not going to be with you all the time.
Yeah.
Health is only going to be with you if you maintain it. If you're not taking advantage of all the good stuff and just letting it be, eventually you get to a point where there may be no return, or it will be too difficult to come back, and therefore now you look tired. It's hard to do it, and then you basically give up. That's the other thing. If you get to a point and you can't come back, then you start giving up, and then that's it. Then you let go. And then once you let go, it's over. And then if you're not really going to have that commitment, things are going to be bad. I've experienced this also with my mom. I mean, she's older in age, but her diabetes, it's been controlled for over the years, but eventually it got to the point where she stopped walking, exercising. And now it's harder for her to do anything.
Oh, yeah.
Even the walking, even the exercising, so she gained more weight. So just because they got to a point where she was no longer doing the stuff that she was doing, and then ultimately it stopped, and now her situation got worse. And now to come back, it's harder for her to even make. So she gets tired quicker, so she doesn't want to do more. And so now it's like a reverse, reaction to this, and then it becomes a problem. Obviously, we try to do some therapy and things like that, and get her in certain diets and stuff to help her. But that can be to anyone. And, whether younger or older in age, that problem can happen. Now, obviously she's much older in age, but even the young folks, they think they're invincible. There was a point I thought that was the case. I think you did too, when you were, in that age. You were like, cool, you're out there, you do your thing. But we all don't realize that your knees, your body, your stomach, everything's going to be, used and abused over time. And unless you take good care of it, it's like, I give the analogy of a vehicle, brand new vehicle. If you maintain it well, and it can last you for 40 years and it's still going to be running well. But if you abuse that thing and speed and bump it and left or right, and don't do anything, no oil change.
Don't change the oil, right? Yeah.
It's rusty, and then that's it. The car is, it's worth nothing. It's the same concept. People may like, well, we're humans, we're not bodies. Well, we have organs. That's like your mechanical stuff.
Exactly. And they need specific things. If you don't give it to them, they can't. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Well, again, it's evidence. It's the lifestyle, the choices, the food, the environment that you set. And we choose those things. We spend the money to buy things. We can use the same money to buy something different. Sometimes people also complain, well, I can't afford these treatments. I can't afford this diet. It's too much. Organic food is expensive. You don't have to go expensive. You can still go cheap and still be able to provide a good diet and provide this. Fasting is free. Actually, it saves you money, right?
Saves you lots, yes.
You don't have to eat outdoors. You just fast, and then you get a nice little healthy meal, and now you get all your nutrition for the day. It's funny because I have a little background of martial arts, and in one of the arts that I've learned and practiced, there is these concepts where we have been culturally designed to eat, which is not necessarily the concept of really how the body works. You don't need to eat just because you want it. You have to eat because it's culturally. You have to have breakfast, you have to have lunch, a little snack, and dinner. That's not necessarily the way the body works. That's just how the culture has grown over the years. Your body needs nutrients. When it needs food, it's going to tell you I need food, and you're going to give it food. But it doesn't have to be 4 times a day, and it have to be just extra. And that's the other part, I think, where the problem is. We all are conditioned to those formulas, and we just eat because, like, I've seen this in cultures, like our culture, you have literally 4 meals by default. and they have to be on a certain time, and they have to be a full spread. I'm like, who said that? I mean, my body doesn't need to eat. I'm not going to have to eat just because the food is there.
Just because it's there.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it is. So people have these conditions. Like, we have at 6 o'clock, we have to have a little snack. We don't have to. I'm not hungry. Why would I have to have a snack? So now you force yourself, you eat this, that extra calories that you need for the day. And now you're just like, what happened to this little pouch? It's just coming up.
That come up.
Exactly. So these are problems that we can easily maneuver by just being aware of things, and we don't have to subscribe to a system just because it's there, and that's the thing. Like, what works for me, and that's for each one of us today, or you and I and anyone listening to the show. Everybody's different, but you can make adjustments accordingly, and you will be able to get to see a change. And you have seen this. I mean, you've helped thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, and the results are there. And to that, from this platform, please check out, the actual institute, and check out the website. It will be on the description. Find out, Dr. Ritamarie's, formulas and system, and see how you can help, how she can help you guys, and how you can help yourselves, get better. There's nothing wrong with that. We all owe it to ourselves and to our health. And, I always say health is wealth. If you have your health, you have everything. If you don't have your health, doesn't matter how much money you have. You can buy some medicine, you can buy stuff, but it's not going to get you, the healthy activities of life, so we have to be aware of that. So, doctor, the people can reach out to you or to your team, and basically they can register to the program. How does that work?
Yeah, so I would say, we do free webinars all the time. You can go to my website, drritamarie.com. You can go to my Facebook, where every week I do a free Facebook Live talk on a health topic. No charge, no nothing. You can learn a lot that way. We have a group on Facebook called Unstoppable Health that you can just join and download, and talk to other people who are doing similarly. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And then if you sign up for one of our free gifts, we'll get you on our mailing list and let you know when we're having our free webinars. So if we are running a course, like we do a sweet spot blood sugar balancing course, and then we have other courses, for the digestion and all that. And you'll just find out about that if you just get into our little circle and community.
Well, listen, we will put all that stuff on the description. So if you check
Great.
out the video, listen to it, on the channel, make sure you check the description. There will be a link to all these particular resources. Click them, participate, learn. You're not going to lose anything. It's free. As they say, if it's free, it's for me. So why not, right?
Right.
So doctor, we actually are on the top of the hour here. So
Yes.
It's been fun. It's just tremendous, insights and great value that we have as always here. Thank you, doctor, for the time and for sharing with us your proposition and your services, and your knowledge, and as well as your personal, experience. Any last words?
I would just say I want to leave you with every choice matters. Every single choice that you make makes a difference as to whether your health goes in the direction you want it to go or goes down. And you get to choose. And we probably get to choose way more times than I want to think about every day. Thousands of times a day you have a choice. Make those choices count.
And the choice is yours, right?
Well,
exactly ours rather.
Right.
So,
each of us. Yes.
There you have it. Those are wise words, and they are applicable. They're real. Take them to the bank. With that, doctor, thank you for the time. It's been a pleasure. Folks, thank you for watching on the iHealth channel. Listen on iHealth Radio. Hurricane H here. Ciao, ciao for now. We'll talk tomorrow. New show, new guest, new topic. Bye now.